वेलकम क्लैट वॉरियर्स, होप यू आर डूइंग वेल एंड स्टडीइंग वेल. एंड ये मॉक भी आपका बहुत ही बढ़िया गया होगा. पैसेजेस वर क्वाइट शॉर्ट एंड क्वेश्चंस वर आल्सो मॉडरेट, easy to moderate, and you might have scored from between 22 to 24, right? So let's move on to the very first passage. So it says, I do not believe in belief. Author does not believe in belief, but this is an age of faith. He is admitting that this is an age of faith, and there are so many militant creeds, like there is so much aggressive combative belief system. One has to formulate a creed of one's own. So author is saying that he is living in an age where faith dominates, often in extreme and aggressive form, right? Tolerance, good temper and sympathy are no longer enough in world which is rent by religious and racial persecution, in a world where ignorance rules and science, who ought to have rule, plays the subservient pimp. So author is saying here that rent by persecution, like torn apart by cruelty and discrimination, right? And science plays the subservient pimp, like science is degraded into serving ignorance of power instead of guiding the real truth. So here in these lines author is saying that world is full of persecution and ignorance, and just being tolerant, kind, sympathetic is not strong enough anymore. They are like a fragile flower crushed under military boots, and these qualities need to be made stronger. In next lines he is saying that tolerance, good temper and sympathy, they are what matter really. And if the human race is not to collapse, if you do not want to collapse, they must come to front before long, but for the moment they are not enough. Their action is no stronger than a flower. He is comparing with it to flower battered beneath a military jackboot. कुचल दिया गया है. They want stiffening. Now author is saying that they want to, they need to make it stronger, even if the process coarsens them. Coarsens यानी making it harsher. अगर process से if they become harsh also, if they become difficult, or if I say rough, less refined, then also it's fine. Faith to mind is a stiffening process, a sort of mental starch. Now he is again comparing faith to mental starch, right? What is mental starch? Something that stiffens something, right? Which ought to be applied as sparingly as possible. I dislike the stuff. I do not believe mental starch is that something stiffens the mind, make it rigid, and I do not believe in it for its own sake at all. Herein I probably differ from most people who believe in belief. The author is differing from those people who believe in belief and are only sorry they cannot swallow even more than they do. So in these lines author is saying that he doesn't like it and wants to use a little as possible this mental starch, and unlike most people who worship belief itself, he admires most skeptical or humanist thinkers. My lawgivers are Erasmus and Montaigne, not Moses and Saint Paul. So in these lines he is again giving these allusions, biblical allusions. This Moses and Saint Paul are religious law makers of Christianity and Judaism, and whereas Montaigne and Erasmus are Renaissance humanists who valued reason, tolerance, skepticism. They ask questions, right? So he is saying my temple stands not upon Mount Moriah, but that in that Elysian field where even the immoral are admitted. So he is saying that my temple does not stand in Mount Moriah. Mount Moriah is a biblical site linked to Abraham's sacrifice, a symbol of sacred faith, and वहीं पे he is again saying that my temple stands in Elysian field. Elysian field is, it belongs to Greek mythology, a paradise where even imperfect may rest, right? Where even the immorals are admitted. Elysian field where immorals are admitted, and he is saying that my temple stands here. My motto is Lord, I disbelieve, hell thou my belief. So again यहाँ पे pun इस्तेमाल हुआ. He is word playing, he is twisting, ironically twisting this biblical prayer, saying he disbelieves and even his unbelief needs help. Help thou my unbelief. ठीक है? Lord, I disbelieve. Bible में it is written Lord, I believe. उसको ना he used pun, irony, right? Moving on to the next paragraph. I have, however, to live in an age of faith, a sort of epoch. What is epoch? A historical period I used to hear praised when I was a boy. It is extremely unpleasant. Really, it is bloody in every sense of word, and I have to keep my end up in it. So he keep my end up in it, like continue to survive with dignity. Keep my end up in it, like surviving with dignity. Where do I start? With personal relation. Here is something comparatively solid in a world full of violence and cruelty. So here he is saying that author is admitting that whether he likes it or not, he must live in a time dominated by faith, which he finds very unpleasant and violent, and bloody in every sense, he is saying, right? To survive in this world, he turns to something relatively stable, and he is saying what is relatively stable? Personal relationships, right, which provides some hope against cruelty. Now, not absolutely solid, for psychology has split and shattered the idea of person. Like psychology has challenged the belief of stable, consistent self. Here, psychology has split and shattered the idea of a person. Psychology is challenging that idea and has shown that there is something incalculable like unpredictable, cannot be measured in each of us, which may at any moment rise to the surface and destroy our normal balance, right? So in these lines, author is saying that psychology has shown the self is unstable and unpredictable. No one can fully know themselves or others कि कौन कैसा है, and theoretically then personal relationship should not be trustworthy, right? Yet in practice still manage to love and remain loyal. We don't know what we are like, हमें नहीं पता हम कैसे हैं, we can't know what other people are like. This is called this is the idea of person through psychology. How then can we put any trust in personal relationship, right? Author is putting his trust or faith on personal relationship, and now he is questioning ki how can we put or cling to them in the gathering political storm. In theory we cannot, theoretically we cannot, but in practice we can do, right? Though A is not unchangeably A, like A is not a fixed personality, or B unchangeably B, or B is not a fixed personality, there can still be love and loyalty between the two. Although these two entities are not fixed, they are not stable, but they can still be love and be loyal between each other. For the purpose of living, one has to assume that the personality is solid and the self is an entity, and to ignore all contrary evidence. And since to ignore evidence is one of the characteristic of faith, I certainly can proclaim that I believe in personal relationships. So, author क्या point present कर रहा है? That theoretically personal relationship should not be trustworthy, yet in practice people still manage to love and remain loyal, and to live we must act as if personalities are stable and selves are real. हमें ऐसा pretend करना है, हमें ऐसा act करना है कि personalities are real and stable, and even if evidence suggests otherwise, the ignorance of evidence or ignoring of evidence is similar to faith. Therefore, he concludes that this only form of faith is personal relationship, right? Now, so overall the author in this particular passage distrusts blind belief, right, and considers faith to be rigid. mental starch की बात कर रहे हैं वो, but he values tolerance, kindness and sympathy, but in a brutal age of militant creeds, जिसको उन्होंने compare किया है with faith, right, it weakens these qualities, and unlike religious followers, he finds inspiration in humanist thinkers like Erasmus and Montaigne, right? And he is saying in his final position is paradoxical. Though he rejects belief in belief, his only real creed is belief in personal relationship. It is the only place he is putting his faith or belief. So I hope you have understood the passage. Moving on to the question and answer. The author's dislike of faith arises because it creates harmony in divided world. No, faith doesn't create harmony. The passage says it produces militant creeds. Faith से militant creeds produce हो रहे, just opposite, right? It stands upon Mount Moriah with prophets. No, Mount Moriah is mentioned only as a contrast. His temple is not there. So this does not explain his dislike, right? What did he tell in the passage? My temple stand in Ilse's field, जहाँ पे सभी लोग welcomed हैं, right? It helps tolerance and sympathy flourish strongly. No, he values tolerance and sympathy, but says faith does not help them flourish. Faith is not helping them flourish. It stiffens the mind. It is merely a stiffening process similar to mental starch. Yes, this is what he is saying. Moving on to the next question. Why does the author mention Erasmus and Montaigne? Okay. They symbolize his rejection of militant creeds? No, he rejects militant creeds. That is not why he names Erasmus or Montaigne. Erasmus was a peace-loving humanist and Montaigne emphasized skepticism and moderation, but the passage does not say the author is mentioning them as a symbol of rejecting militant creed. तो बहुत ही अलग context में present किया जा रहा है through option A. They are his lawgivers instead of religious figures like Moses and Saint Paul. Yes, explicitly stated in the passage. Like author says that my lawgivers are Erasmus and Montaigne, not Moses and Saint Paul. The author contrasts Erasmus and Montaigne as his guides with Moses and Paul, and he is putting this contradiction between traditional Christian authorities to skeptic humanist, right? They defend the supremacy of science over ignorance. No, ऐसा कहीं भी नहीं. They encourage skepticism, learning and human dignity. पर passage में ये कहीं नहीं कहा गया है that they are defenders of science. तो C is also incorrect. They represent the shattered self described by psychology. No, they have nothing to do with psychology's shattered self, and the author does not bring in psychological concepts like shattered self. In this context, Erasmus and Montaigne symbolize just they are guides of rational life, that's it. So it is irrelevant to psychology. Moving on to the next question. If one fully accepts psychology's claim about instability of personality, one will lose trust in the possibility of personal relationships. Yes, बिल्कुल सही बात है, right? Because psychology has split and shattered idea of person. हमारे passage में लिखा है that psychology challenges this idea of a person being stable and trustworthy, having faith, right? So it will lead to lose trust in the possibility of personal relationships, right? We can put any trust in personal relationship. In theory, we cannot. So this means if you take psychology seriously, you would doubt personal relationship. So A is the correct answer. Be unable to tolerate violence and cruelty. No, psychology doesn't say we can't tolerate cruelty. ऐसे कोई भी बात हमारे पैसेज में मेंशन नहीं की गई है regarding psychology. Be able to build temples in Elysian fields. Temples in Elysian fields are metaphor, not linked to psychology. Again, be able to believe in belief more strongly. No, psychology doesn't lead to stronger belief in belief, right? So D is also contradictory to what is given in the passage. Moving on to the next question. According to the author, personal relationships are important because they provide stable anchors in a turbulent world. Yes, हमारे passage में author यही बोल रहा है कि although A is not interchangeably A and B is not interchangeably B, they are not stable, but they can promise a stability and loyalty between each other. So yes, A goes with what is said in the passage. B depend entirely on scientific evidence. No, he never says that they depend on scientific evidence. Irrelevant. Remain unchangeably fixed despite psychology. No, he says we must assume. It is not remaining unchangeably fixed, right? We are assuming that they will share faith and loyalty between each other. Eliminate the need for tolerance and sympathy. No, they do not eliminate tolerance. Tolerance is still needed, right? Moving on to the next question. Based on the passage, the author strongly advocates the need to avoid all forms of personal attachment in an age of faith. No, he does not say to avoid all kinds of attachment, very extreme. Proclaim loyalty only to militant creeds. No, he rejects militant creeds. He rejects that believe in belief, right? Believe in personal relationships despite theoretical doubts. Yes, यही बात पैसेज में कही गई है कि for the purpose of living one has to assume the personality is solid. Follow the prophets of old for moral guidance. No, he rejects prophets as lawgivers, right? Moving on to the next question. Which of the following is a synonym of the word persecution as used in the passage? So, oppression, yes, unjust control, right? Unjust control. Harassment, yes, cruel behavior. Victimization, yes, treating someone unfairly as victim, है ना, unfairly. Victim. तो बताइए, yes, the correct answer is all of above. The line, a world which is rent by religion and social persecution. Persecution means cruel treatment based on identity, so it includes all of this: oppression, cruel behavior, unfair victimization. So the correct answer is D, that is all of above. Moving on to the next passage. Teaching, if it is to benefit the tender children, must be such as will help to advance along the road to independent. So, tender children, like very young, delicate, छोटे बच्चे, must be such as that it will help advance along the road of independence, like progress toward self-reliance, right? So, author is starting by saying that teaching should make children independent, right? Helping them to walk alone, to run, to mount and descend staircases, to lift up fallen objects, to dress and undress themselves, to wash themselves, to speak as to state their needs clearly, to make attempts to satisfy their desires. That is what constitutes education in independence. So, author is telling us that education should not only mean book learning, but also training children to do things for themselves like walking, running, climbing, picking up things, dressing, washing, speaking clearly, even trying to meet their own needs, and these practical skills are the real foundation of independence, right? What is the real foundation of independence? All these things. ये बच्चा ये सब कुछ अपने से कर पाए, right? We wait upon children, ठीक है? Like we serve them too much, like servants, right? We wait upon children, and a servile act like overly submissive, servant kind of, ठीक है? Which affects them is no less fatal. It is very dangerous, it is deadly, it is destructive than an act which kills one of their useful natural actions. It is an act जो उनकी एक natural instinct को खत्म कर देता है, ठीक है? Adults often serve too much, treating them like a helpless puppets or dolls, and we believe that children are like inanimate puppets. हम उनको कैसे ट्रीट करते हैं? जैसे वो गुड्डे गुड़िया हैं, and we wash them, we feed them as if they were dolls. We never think that the baby does nothing, does not know how to do things. वो ना कुछ करता है ना वो जानता है कि कैसे करना है, but he ought to do things, and nature has given him all the means whereby he may learn to do them. So author is saying that child may look inactive, but he has the ability to learn by doing. And our duty is to not to do everything for him, but to guide him so he learns useful action by himself, right? Our duty क्या है? Without expectation, to help him to perform useful acts. And the mother who feeds the baby without making the slightest effort to teach him, एक ऐसी माँ जो उसको सिखाने के बजाय बस without any effort उसको खिला देती है, and to find the way to his mouth, or who while eating herself does not at least invite him to watch how it is done, she is no good mother. अगर वो सिखा नहीं रही है, सिर्फ उसको she is just waiting upon that child, the author is saying that she is not a good mother. Now, she often it's the human dignity of her son, very extreme line. She offends the human dignity of her son, treats him like a puppet while he is a man entrusted to her care by nature. So, author is saying that a mother she is not, if she is not teaching the child how to eat or how to do things, she is not fulfilling her duty, and she should encourage him to try, at least show him how, otherwise she is insulting his dignity as a human being by treating him like a doll instead of a future man with natural potential. Right? Who is there who does not understand that to teach a child to eat, to wash himself, to dress himself constitutes a task much longer, more difficult and more tedious than feeding. Now author is saying कि किसी बच्चे को सिर्फ खिला देना is easier task, but उसको ये सब सिखाना is more tedious than just feeding, dressing and clothing him. The first is the work of educator. जब हम किसी बच्चे को सिखा रहे होते हैं तो it is a work of an educator. The second one is easy, inferior work of servant. जो हम just when parents or adults just wait upon children, it is a work of servant. The second is not only inferior and easier work, but it is dangerous, for it closes outlets, erects obstacles in the way of life which is unfolding, and besides the immediate consequences, it gives rise to graver, very dangerous consequences in the future. Okay? So author is saying here that it takes more time and effort to teach a child to do things, but while it is very easy for inferior work like waiting on your child, and serving is also harmful because it blocks the child's natural growth. Not only does it affect him immediately, but it also creates bigger problem later in life, and it the gentleman who has too many servants not only become more and more completely their dependent and their slave, but his muscles weaken through lack of exercise and at last lose their natural power of action. तो author is saying कि जो बहुत ज़्यादा servants पे dependent रहता है वो एक समय के बाद weak हो जाता है और उसके शरीर को, उसके दिमाग, उसकी muscles भूल जाती हैं how to act, and the mind of anyone who in order to get what he needs does not work but gives orders, atrophies. What is atrophies? Like waste away, become useless, right, and grows weak. In such a manner do we inoculate what with the deadly sin of laziness. What is inoculate with the deadly sin of laziness? Like instill laziness like a harmful disease. Supposing that one day his mind having been suddenly enlightened, like awakened, the man accustomed to be served should wish to regain his independence, he would perhaps discover that he has no longer possessed the strength needed to be independent. So author is saying कि अगर एक दिन उसका अंदर से अंतरात्मा जागी भी कि मुझे अपने काम खुद से करने हैं, तो he will lose his, he might have lost his potential. They become so lazy and lose the ability to act for themselves. Later, if they suddenly want independence, they may find that they have lost the strength and key skills to achieve that independence, right? So this passage was stressing that true education means training children to be independent, right? And author also said that parents who just wait upon their children are actually very, this approach is actually very dangerous and fatal, and अगर वो future में कभी independent बनना भी चाहें, तो by the time they will realize it, they might have lost the key skills to achieve that independence. Okay. Now coming on to question number 7. Which of the following currently reflects the intention of the author of this passage? Okay. To keep children safe by doing everything for themselves so they do not struggle. Ici author is just criticizing this approach and saying that this is harmful, right? To train children to be obedient who follow orders without action? No, wrong. The author values action and learning by doing, not passive obedience. So author is criticizing this as well. To teach children useful acts so they become self-dependent, yes, like washing, yeah, dressing, running, cleaning, speaking, everything. This includes the true education according to author. To protect children from any task until they reach adulthood, again the author says delaying practice is harmful and dangerous, and by that time they will achieve that adulthood, they might have lost that potential, right? Moving on to the next question. In the light of above passage, what is the likely long-term result of always serving children and doing tasks for them? Very easy, children will become more grateful and helpful? No. No mention of being grateful or helpful. Children will learn to instruct others effectively and thus become self-reliant. No, rather they will become more dependent, not self-reliant. They will become slave of their servants. Children will gain immediate skills but lose moral character. Moral character की कोई बात नहीं की गई हुई है. C is also incorrect. D, the children may become physically weaker leading to laziness and dependence. Very explicitly stated in the passage कि अगर बच्चे they are always served, their muscle weaken and their mind becomes lazy and they grow dependent, right? Moving on to the next question. According to the author, which approach best characterizes the proper role of educator or mother? Doing tasks for the child to save time? Nahi. This is servant-like work which author is criticizing, insisting on high ideals while discouraging practical attempts by the child. Nahi, the focus is on practical acts, not some abstract ideals. So B is also incorrect. Patiently guiding the child to perform useful tasks on his own. Yes, C is the correct answer because author says that real education is to patiently teach children and like to teach a child to eat, to wash himself, to dress himself is the work of an educator, not a servant. Relying on servants and mechanical methods to maintain order and discipline, no, that leads to dependence and weakness, right? Moving on to the next question. According to the passage, why does the author call the servant-like treatment of children dangerous? Because it makes children overly sentimental and timid. No mention of being so sentimental or timid. So A is incorrect because it leads to practical efficiency for caretakers, leading them to become slaves. No, the danger is for child, not for caretakers. यहाँ पे the focus has been shifted to caretakers, but the danger is for child. The B is also incorrect because it quickly trains children in household skills only, making them self-dependent. इसका just उल्टा होता है. It does the opposite, keeps them dependent on servants because it stifles growth, weakens body and mind, and breeds dependence. Yes, D is the correct answer. Right? It's very explicitly stated in last paragraph. Which of the following best describes the author's view of mother who feeds a baby without teaching him to feed himself? Right? So option A, she shows an admirable desire to keep the child clean and comfortable. No, the author condemns, not admires this, right? So A is incorrect. She is understandably efficient in saving the child from struggle. No, efficiency is not the point here. Independence is the point, right? She hurts the child dignity by teaching him like a puppet, not a person. Yes, C is very explicitly stated in the passage that such a mother offends the human dignity of her son, treats him like a puppet while he is a man entrusted to her care by nature, right? He is providing necessary protection until the child is mature, and by the time he will be mature or he will be adult, अगर इसी तरीके का approach चलता रहा तो he will lose his skills. So D is also incorrect. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following is the best antonym of atrophy as used in the passage? So shrivel. What is the meaning of shrivel? Shrivel means to shrink, like dry up. Okay. Emaciate. Emaciate means to become very thin, weak. Right? हमको antonym पता करना है. Strengthen. Yes, strengthen. Like इसी की तो बात हो रही है. Atrophy means wasting away, right? And strengthening, by teaching him all these skills, we have to strengthen that child. So yes, C is the correct answer. C is the antonym of atrophy. Wilt. Wilt also means to wither, to droop, right? So A, B, D are synonyms of atrophy and C is the antonym. So C is the correct answer. Moving on to the third passage. The ordinary meaning of education is a knowledge of letters. ठीक है. To teach boys reading, writing and arithmetic is called primary education. A peasant earns his bread honestly. He has ordinary knowledge of the world. He knows fairly well how he should behave towards his parents, his wife, his children and his fellow villagers. He understands and observes the rules of morality, but he cannot write his own name. So author is here, in these lines author is saying that people think education is just learning, reading, writing है ना, arithmetic. But he is giving the example of a farmer, a peasant who cannot write his name, who still earns an honest living for his family and society and follows a moral rules. So now what do you propose to do by giving him a knowledge of letters? Will you add an inch to his happiness? Do you wish to make him discontented with his cottage or his lot, cottage, his living like simple home or condition of life, home, his lot, condition of life, right? So again author is asking question ki so does giving him book learning really make him happier, or will it just make him dissatisfied about his simple life, right? And even if you want to do that, he will not need such an education. अगर आप ऐसा करना भी चाहें तो it just make him the author is arguing that this push for such education will not be good for him. Carried away by the flood of Western thought, we came to conclusion without weighing pros and cons that we should give this kind of education to the people. Now let us take higher education. I have learned geography, astronomy, algebra, geometry, etc. What of that? In what way have I benefited myself or those around me? So in these lines author is saying that this push for such education of learning, reading, writing, arithmetic and everything is actually coming blindly from Western ideas without giving much thought to it. And again now author is saying कि मुझे मैंने ये सब पढ़ा है, right? Now he is shifting to higher education. He has studied all these subjects, but he asked what real benefit have these studies brought either to himself or the people around him, right? What of that? In what way I have benefited myself or people around me? Now why have I learned these things? Author is asking कि मैंने ये सब क्यों ही पढ़ा? Professor Huxley has thus defined education. Now Professor Huxley is defining giving the definition of the education. The man, I think, had a liberal education who has been trained in youth. Okay? The first is that who has been trained in youth, that his body is the ready servant of his will. So author is saying that he obeys his will. First one is obeys his will. Does with ease and pleasure all the work that as a mechanism it is capable of. Like he has intellect, he has mind that works logically and smoothly, whose intellect is clear, cold logic engine with all its parts of equal strength and smooth working order. ठीक है? Whose mind is stored with the knowledge of fundamental truths of nature. तीसरी बात क्या बोल रहे हैं? That he knows the basic truths of nature. Whose passions are trained to come to heel by a vigorous will. Like he controls his passions with a strong will, guided by a sensitive conscience, like the servant of tender conscience. चौथी बात क्या बोल रहे हैं? That he controls his passion with strong will, guided by sensitive conscience, who has learned to have all vileness and to respect others as himself. Now he is saying that he hates evil and respects other cruelty, who has learned to have all vileness and to respect others as himself. Such a one and no other I conceive has had a liberal education, for he is in harmony with nature. So author is saying कि ऐसा व्यक्ति, such a person, he is in harmony with nature and makes the best use of life. He will make the best of her and she of him. If this be true education, now author is saying कि अगर यही सही education है, I must emphatically say that the sciences I have enumerated above I have never been able to use for controlling my senses. Therefore, whether you take elementary education or higher education, it is not required for the main thing. It does not make of us men, it does not enable us to do our duty. So in these lines author is saying that the subjects the author studies have not helped him control his senses or live morally, right? not helped him to control his senses or live morally. So whether it is elementary education like basic literacy or higher education like subjects like this geography, arithmetic and maths, neither of them serves the main purpose of education, because true education should make us real human being and enable us to do our duty, which these subjects do not. It does not enable us to do our duties. Alright. So this passage was about the author was questioning, the author is MK Mahatma Gandhi, and he is questioning the common idea that education is simply reading, writing, learning subjects. And the author argues that both basic literacy and higher education studies often fail to make people morally strong, self-control or better human. So Professor Huxley says that education is training the body, mind and will and conscience, so a person lives in harmony with nature and fulfills his duty. Alright, so this is the definition of true education. Moving on to the question and answer. Education as described by the author means the ability to sign one's name. नहीं, इसको तो उन्होंने education consider ही नहीं किया. It is criticizing as too narrow, right? Learning geography, astronomy, algebra, साफ explicitly author is saying that neither चाहे वो basic literacy हो, fundamental literacy हो या ये higher academics हो, neither of them help them to become a true man. Training that aligns the body, mind, emotion and science with natural equilibrium. Yes, C is the correct answer. The author, quoting Huxley, says true education trains body, intellect, passion, conscience so that the person lives in harmony with nature. Right? Accumulating knowledge of world without exercising self-control, no, this is what the author rejects as not making us a man. Okay? Moving on to the next question. As per the author, the aim of education should be to make a man capable of doing his duty and controlling his senses. Yes, ऐसा ही तो कुछ बोल रहे हैं. A is the correct answer. Right? Because author clearly says that education must help us control our passion and enable us to do our duty. To provide a knowledge of fundamental sciences, no, only learning sciences is incomplete. It doesn't train the character. To improve one's prospect for wealth and social status, it is not mentioned as the purpose, right? To gain wealth or social status. No, to create discontentment with one simple lot in life, the author is warning us against this. Okay, by giving the example of that peasant. Moving on to the next question. According to the author, the country wants people whose intellect is stored with Western knowledge. No, author is criticizing this blind imitation of Western knowledge. Right? Citizens who are content with cottages in ordinary life, no, it doesn't fulfill duty or higher ideals. According to the country does not want this, right? Men with disciplined body, will and conscience. Yes, C is the correct answer. The author emphasizes the need for self-control, morally strong citizens who are in harmony with nature, right? Scholars who can enumerate sciences but not apply them. So this is what exactly the author is criticizing in our passage. So D is incorrect. According to the author, we need to study letters alone, bilkul nahi, very narrow, so that the peasants can write their name. Subjects that help to discipline passions and make us men. Yes, the author says neither elementary nor higher education matters unless it helps us control our senses and be the real man. So B is the correct answer. Higher branches of science without regard to morality, no, author is criticizing it. It is incomplete and useless because it is not providing the youth any character. Western thought carried over by the flood without reflection. This is condemned in para 1 by the author, right? So D is also incorrect. Moving on to the next question. According to the author, which among the following is the key to attain knowledge? The ability to calculate algebra? No. Like, it is just a skill, it is not a moral discipline to attain knowledge, right? The habit of imitating Western definition of education? No, it is rejected by the author in the passage. Reading libraries and storing information in memory, it is not enough, it does not form character. D, concentration that disciplines the intellect and passions. Yes, D is the correct answer. It aligns with Huxley's definition that highlights the control of passion and disciplined mind under strong will and tender conscience. Moving on to the next question, which of the following is related to the word discontented as used in passage? ठीक है, तो dissatisfied is yes incomplete, right? Sorrowful, upset, disappointed, all these things, like the lines में क्या लिखा, do you wish to make him discontented with his cottage or lot? तो yes, it goes with this word discontented goes with dissatisfied, sorrowful and disappointment, because अगर हम उस पेशेंट को बताते हैं कि तुम्हारा ये नहीं है वो नहीं, तो he might feel upset, he might not feel so happy about it. So yes, the correct answer is D, all of the above, right? Moving on to the next passage. So, Rusty sprang to his feet. The cut across his face has stung him to madness, to an unreasoning hate. Sorry. He did what previously he would only have dreamt of doing. So, author Rusty is injured. There is a cut across his face and stung to madness, like this has made him so angry, right? To an unreasoning hate. Unreasoning hate यानी बिल्कुल irrational anger, blind hate, कोई बिना मतलब की. And he did what previously would have only dreamt of doing, और उसने वो किया जो वो सिर्फ सोच सकता था, imagine कर सकता था, reality में वो कभी नहीं कर सकता. तो Rusty, injured and furious because of the pain, lost control his emotions, and he acted out of blind anger, doing something he had never imagined before, and lifting a vase of the missionary's wife best sweet peas. Sweet peas is a kind of flower. Off the glass cupboard, he flung it at his guardian's face. He hit him on the chest, but the water and flowers flopped out over his face. He tried to get up, but he was speechless. So, this Rusty flung a vase filled with flowers and water at his guardian, and the vase struck his guardian on the chest and spilling its content like flowers on his face, and he was so shocked and unable to react immediately. So, the guardian was left speechless. The look of alarm on Mr. Harrison's face gave a Rusty greater courage. So, this expression of look of alarm is an expression of fear on Mr. Harrison's face gave Rusty more courage. Rusty के पास और ज़्यादा अभी उसको मज़ा आ गया. He got more bolder, right? Before the man could recover his feet and his balance, Rusty gripped him off by the collar and pushed him backward until they both fell over on the floor. With one hand still twisting on the collar, the boy slapped his guardian's face. Mad with the pain in his own face, Rusty hit the man again and again, wildly and awkwardly, but with the giddy thrill. What is giddy thrill? Like dizzying excitement of knowing he could do it. He was child no longer. He was nearly 17. He was a man. So these lines describe कि this author, this boy, ये जो उसको मार रहा था, it was giving him intoxicating sense of strength, right? And उसको इतना मज़ा आया that he realized he was no longer a boy but nearly a man, right? He discovered at this point of time, he discovered his power, the ability to hurt someone, and he felt both dangerous and godlike. He could inflict pain. That was a wonderful discovery. There was a power in his body, a devil or God, right? And he gained confidence in his power. He was a man. Stop that, stop it. The shout of hysterical woman. Now, hysterical woman is like highly emotional, mood swing, panicking women, brought Rusty to his senses. जब he heard these lines ki stop it, when missionary's wife interrupted Rusty's violent outburst, forcing him to stop, he like he came back to his senses. Like he still held his guardian by the throat. अभी भी वो पकड़ा हुआ था, but he stopped hitting him. अभी उसने मारना बंद कर दिया था. Miss Harrison's face was very red. The missionary's wife stood in the doorway, her face white with fear. She was under the impression that Mr. Harrison was being attacked by a servant or some bazaar hooligan. Right? कि कोई rowdy troublemaker from the marketplace has come and he is attacking on Mr. Harrison. Rusty did not wait until she found her tongue with a newfound speed. So author is saying that he did not wait, he just escaped there. He did not wait her to talk or say something, found her tongue, like regained ability to speak until she found her tongue, but with a newfound speed and agility darted out of the drawing room. वो भाग गया, right? Moved suddenly and quickly, darted out, moved suddenly and quickly of the drawing room. He made his escape from the bedroom window. Bedroom window से भाग गया. From the gate he could see the missionary's wife saluted against the drawing room light. Saluted यानी image जो बनती है, the dark outline against light. ठीक है, छाया जिसको बोलते हैं हम. He laughed out loud. The woman swiveled round like turned quickly and came forward a few steps, and Rusty laughed again and began running down the road to the bazaar. So from outside the gate he saw this outline in the light of Mrs. Harrison, and filled with rebellious energy he laughed out loudly, and when she moved towards him he laughed again and ran off toward the marketplace, free and defiant. Right? I hope you have understood this passage. It is capturing the turning point in Rusty's life, the boy, with the sudden burst of rebellion and violence against his guardian, and he realized that he has got the power. Doesn't matter if it is devilish or angelic, but he has got that power and it is intoxicating. He is enjoying that, right? Which among the following is the meaning of the expression giddy thrill as used in the passage? ठीक है, a light-headed excitement mixed with fear. Yes, A is the correct answer, because Rusty hit his guardian, and here giddy thrill means a dizzy, light-headed excitement that comes with a mix of fear and joy of discovering his own strength. Right? उसको मजा आ रहा था. A deep and serious determination, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं था. It is not suggested in the passage. Rusty's actions were wild and unplanned. ठीक है, a sense of pity and regret for one's action, कोई भी pity, it is just opposite. The Rusty is very thrilled. A calculated and rational decision. Again, his actions were very impulsive and emotional. It was not calculated and rational at all. Next question. According to the passage, what gave Rusty greater courage during the struggle? The alarm look on the Mr. Harrison face, very explicitly stated in the passage only. वो जो डर वाला भाव Mr. Harrison के face में था, it made him more bold, right? The flowers spilling from the vase, no, they didn't give him courage. The pain in his wounded face, no, pain in his face made him angry, not courageous. यहाँ पे courageous होने की बात हो रही है. This pain made him angry. The presence of the missionary's wife, तो she came later. The fight had already begun, और उसकी आवाज़ सुन के he came back to his senses and he stopped attacking on Mr. Harrison. What did Rusty discover while hitting his guardian? That he was still a timid and helpless boy? No. The opposite is shown, right? Now he has become courageous. He has discovered that he has become a man now. He has got the power. That he was man enough to inflict pain, yes. That he realized he was no longer a helpless boy, right? That violence was meaningless? Nahin, he did not think violence was meaningless. He felt power in it. So she is incorrect. That his guardian was too weak to resist? Aisa nahi hai. He was just shocked. The focus was not on Mr. Harrison's weakness, but on Rusty's strength, and he was shocked at that time that how this boy can attack on me, right? So D is also incorrect. Next, which among the following is the word for the phrase face turned very red as used in the passage? First option A, blushed. We blush, but ब्लश में जो रेडनेस आती है इट इज़ फ्रॉम शाइनेस और एम्बैरसमेंट, बट यहाँ पे तो गुस्से में आ रहा है, राइट. सो ही वॉज फ्लश्ड लाइक heated due to anger, heat और strong emotion की वजह से his face turned very red. Inflamed suggests strong feeling but does not directly mean the red face, right. Glowed is always like used in positive sense. It suggests warmth, it suggests happiness. यहाँ पे तो गुस्सा है, तो yes, D is the correct answer, that is flushed, right. Mr. Harrison's face was very red. The best single word for this is flushed, meaning red due to anger, heat or strong emotions. So D is the correct answer. How did the missionary's wife interpret the scene? Rusty bravely defended himself using courage and persistence. No, she did not see Rusty as a bravely defending himself. The fight was an accident caused by Vase. ऐसा नहीं था कि गलती से Vase की वजह से लड़ाई होने लग गई थी, तो B is also incorrect. Mr. Harrison was being attacked by a servant or hooligan. Yes, C is the correct answer. When his wife entered into the scene, she thought that it is some servant or hooligan or rowdy from bazaar who is attacking on Mr. Harrison. So yes, C is the correct answer. Rusty and Harrison were only playing roughly. ऐसा नहीं, she did not think that they were playing roughly at all. So irrelevant. Moving on to the last question. What was Rusty's reaction after making his escape? As he slipped into the darkness, he laughed quietly to himself. No, he is not laughing quietly to himself. वो बहुत जोर से. He is laughing loudly. He grinned with relief before hiding near the gate. No, he did not stop and hide near the gate. He just kept on running with lots of laughter. He smiled faintly at the frightened figure of the missionary's wife. No, he did not smile faintly. His laughter was open and loud. As he sprinted towards the market, he laughed out loud. Yes, D is the correct answer. From the gate, he could see the image of missionary's wife and he laughed out loud, and Rusty laughed again and began running down the road to the bazaar, according to the passage. So, now वो आराम से हंस रहा है, ना छुप के हंस रहा है. So, we have come to an end of this analysis video. I hope you have understood all the passages. They were relatively very easy, and all the questions, why options are why answer is correct and why other choices are wrong. Till then, मिलते हैं अगले वीडियो में. All the best. आप अच्छे से पढ़ाई करिए because CLAT is like on 73 days are left. So all the best. Till then, stay logical with Vidikya.